I'm glad to see everybody here. This is our first attempt at a cooking class. My name is Peggy. For anybody that's online that doesn't know me, everybody here knows me. The recipes that I'm using came out of this book. It's Comfort Food for Your Soul. This is our first attempt, so we're going to work it out. So here we go. The recipes came from here, and we're going to start with a chicken vegetable soup. So I've got the water on it. You need 7 cups of water. And I've got it in the pot, and it's starting to boil. And then we're going to use 2 of the chicken bouillon cubes. And I'm going to add them to the water. Oh, which is boiling quite nicely. Okay. So we're going to let those dissolve. And I'm going to get our chicken. Now, you can use any kind of chicken you want. I mean, you know, this is made with chicken breast. But what I like to do are get the little strips and cut them up, because then all you have to do is take like 2 strips and then just cut them in chunks. You can use a whole chicken if you want. You can take and boil a whole chicken and use the broth from that. But if you do that, then when you go to use the broth, take and put a bunch of ice in a colander and pour that broth over the ice to get the fat off of it. So you might start before you boil it, take as much of that fat off the chicken as you can. You can reach under the skin and get a lot of that fat off. You could also use a rotisserie chicken if you like. Now, I like to use the rotisserie chicken sometimes to make broth. I get one and I take as much chicken off as I can, and then I boil the bones and the skin because there's a lot of flavor in the skin. And the same way, you pour it over the ice to get all of that fat out of there. So there's our chicken. We got it all cut and ready to go. And I'm going to take this lid off and put our chicken in there so it can cook a little bit. These are very easy recipes that we've got today. So I'm going to put the chicken in, and I'm going to let it cook for a while, and we'll get our vegetables ready. Stir it up a little bit. The recipe that is in the book is actually twice as much as what I'm making, but I tried to cut it down so we can use it for seniors or for just small families or one or two people. Okay, so that's where we're at with that. So when that cooks a little bit, I got more stuff to add, and I'm going to get the vegetables out. We use frozen vegetables, so you don't have to cut them all up. And in the book, it said to use a bag of mixed vegetables and a bag of Oriental vegetables. And do you know, you cannot find Oriental vegetables right now. I'm surprised at how many particular things we can't find right now. So just use what sounds good to you. What I've got today is the mixed vegetables, and I've got one that's broccoli, carrots, and water chestnuts. So I'm going to add that to my pan. Now I kind of mixed them in a plastic bag, and then I've got some asparagus that I'm going to put in there. And I like to kind of break it up because the frozen, it called for a can of asparagus. I don't like using canned. I like frozen much better. So you can kind of break those up a little bit. So they'll be good soup size. The frozen is much more fresh tasting than the canned. I'm not a big canned fan of anything, but sometimes you have to use it, and I'm going to use a couple right now. So I'll go ahead and put the asparagus in. And then we're going to put in a can of creamed corn. See, I told you I was going to use a can. I like to get all of it in there that I can. And then we're going to use a can of sliced stewed tomatoes. And for seasoning, we're going to put in a couple of bay leaves. Make sure you take the bay leaves out before you serve it. So we're going to put those bay leaves in there. And then we're going to put in some sweet basil and black pepper. That's what's in here. And in this one, I've got a half tablespoon of garlic salt and a half tablespoon of garlic powder. And that's going in there. So let me get that stirred up again. And we'll let that cook while we go ahead and get the bread pudding ready to go in. So I've got to clean up all this mess so I can make another mess. I'm a mess maker. I got a helper. Come around here. This is Robin Ayers, and she is my helper. She cleans up my messes and does my dishes. Everybody needs somebody like that. So if you have somebody like that, use them. It also calls for a can of spinach. Like I said, I don't like canned. I've got some fresh spinach here that I'll put in a little later, but I don't like to put it in until about 5 minutes before the whole thing is done. All right, so now we're going to start with the bread pudding, and I got to move stuff over. So, okay. Now I've got some wheat bread here. Let me get my recipe. Now with the soup or with anything that we're making, if there's something that you don't like in it, don't put it in there. I know I have a very dear friend that does not like spinach, so don't put it in there. All right. Now I've got this wheat bread here, and it's a low-fat wheat bread. There's only 45 calories per slice, and we're going to cut it into cubes. That didn't work. Maybe I'll have to use the other one. Thank you. There. So I make about 3 slices, 2 cuts to make 3 pieces going each direction to make our cubes. And now Robin is going to spray my pan for me. So that'll be ready when I'm ready for it. This bread that we've got, you're supposed to take it out of the package the night before and let it sit out all night long. And that makes it a little hard. It's not real hard, but it's kind of like 3-day-old bread that you might get. So anyway, we got those all cut up. Now we're going to get 18 egg whites. There we go. And I've got them all in this jar. I'm going to pour that in the bowl. There we go. And then we need 2 1/3 cups skim milk. That's in there as well. Yeah. In this container. But you didn't know that. No. All right. And there's our skim milk. We put that in there. And I'm going to mix just those two up for just a little bit. You're supposed to shake up if you use the, oh, here we go. If you use the egg whites that are in the container, you're supposed to shake it up, but I already took it out of the container, so we're just mixing it up. All right, and then we need either a third cup of sugar or stevia, or yeah, Splenda, whatever you want to use. And then we need a half cup of brown sugar. Now I've got both of those in here, so I'm going to add those to my egg whites and my milk and mix them up. And then we need the vanilla, which is right here, and a half teaspoon of cloves, a half teaspoon of cinnamon, and a half teaspoon of salt, which were all in here. We're going to mix that up. And then we're going to add 12 ounces of fat-free canned milk. There we go. And we got all that mixed up. Well, we're mixing all that up. Now we're going to need some apples. So I'm going to put this over here for just a minute. But it says, get my measuring cup. All right. We need approximately 3/4 cup of thin sliced apples. And the stove is set at 350. Let's see what we got so far. Not quite. Might take the rest of this. Now this one's too thick. I'll cut it in two. At home, I'd have just picked it up and ate it, but I won't do that here. There we go. All right, now we're going to mix this, our egg whites and stuff just a little more to try to make sure it's mixed good all the way through. And then we're going to add the apples and the bread and put those in there. I'm going to tell you a little secret. You're supposed to add raisins right now too, a half cup of raisins, but I have a friend that does not like raisins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this stuff all together good. And then I'm going to pour it into my prepared pan. There we go. Oh, I need to turn my soup down. I don't want it cooking quite that fast. It's supposed to kind of simmer once you get everything in there. And I had it boiling. Boy, it was going to town. It was going to make sure it's ready to eat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pour this in my prepared pan, thanks to my sous chef. I kind of like using that word. That's kind of fun. All right. And then just kind of make sure you got apples everywhere and everything. And so instead of putting a half cup raisins in there, because I got a friend that doesn't like raisins, I'm going to put a 1/4 cup at one end. These recipes, like I said, if there's something you don't like in it, don't do it. I bet you that the frozen or the dried cranberries would be good in here too, because I really like the dried cranberries. All right. Now we're going to put that in our 350 oven. And we're going to set the timer. It says between 40 and 45 minutes. We're going to go ahead and set it for 45. See if it'll let me do it. All right. There we go. Some of these buttons don't like the rubber gloves, so, you know, I'm going to change and we're going to work on our Jello. Sorry, I keep disappearing. You didn't know it was going to be a magic show too, did you? All right. So I'm going to go over this way and get some more stuff. All right. Now I'm going to take and put this water in the microwave so it'll boil. And that should take about 2 minutes. Thank you. Isn't she nice? Is this clean? I need that again. Okay. I keep forgetting which way I got to move. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and put a 20-ounce can of pineapple in this bowl where we're going to put our Jello. And a can of the whole berry cranberry sauce. And I like to put them in before I put the Jello in and kind of break up that cranberry sauce and then kind of stir the two together. If you wait until you put your Jello in, it's really hard to get that all broken up and stirred up. So I put the pineapple and the cranberry sauce in the bowl first. Okay. I can use that for the, not quite boiling yet. I can't watch it or it won't boil. That's what I've been told. Don't watch it, it won't boil. So, like I was saying about these recipes, they're very simple recipes. They're very good recipes. And don't put in what you don't want in them. Just put in what you like, okay? Or if you have some other ideas of what you'd like to do with them. So, I saw it move. It was boiling. We're going to take, this is sugar-free Jello. It's a 6-ounce box. And we're going to melt that in our water. Whoops. I got to do something different. Okay. Now we're melting that Jello in the boiling water. And I always like to make sure it's good and dissolved. All right. Oh, I know what that is. Okay. So I'm going to put that in here with the, oh, it wasn't good and dissolved. A small spoon. I didn't get in the corners. I missed part of my Jello. So I'm going to pour a little of this back in here. There we go. If I didn't make a mess, it wouldn't be me cooking. I always have to have a mess somewhere. There we go. Now that's better. All right. So we're going to stir this all up. And we're going to leave our whisk and our measuring cup right here because we're going to need it again later. And I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. Now this has to sit in the refrigerator for 20 minutes before we finish it up. So let's see if we can set the timer on here. Okay. Oh, that was going to be a quick one because I had it for 20 seconds. Thankfully, I have help today. All right, now we've got our pudding, our harvest pudding in cooking. Now I'm going to get out an 8-ounce container of whipping cream and a spoon. I'm just telling you what I'm doing since you can't see me. There we go, that'll do. I'm back. All right, so the recipe calls for Dream Whip. I couldn't find any Dream Whip, we're using Cool Whip. I don't know if they make Dream Whip anymore. So, because this book isn't brand new. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got a ½ teaspoon of cloves and a ½ teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm going to mix that in our Cool Whip. And it takes a little bit to mix it because we got a powder and we got almost a solid, not quite, semi-solid. Anyway, we need to get that mixed up really good. And this is what we're going to put on top of that bread pudding, that harvest pudding. Makes a good topping. It also would make a good topping for on top of the Jell-O, I think. But the recipe says you can use whipped topping on your Jell-O. And another thing, if you like something that's kind of sweet and sour, mix a little bit of half mayonnaise and half Cool Whip for on your Jell-O. That gives you a kind of a sweet and sour topping to it. So, all right, there's our mixture for on top of our bread pudding. So, let me check our soup. It's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. When you're cooking the soup, naturally, the longer you cook it, the more soft it will be. If you like vegetables that are kind of crunchy, then you don't want to cook it as long. That's one of those things where you have to take a piece out and taste it to see if it's where you want it. Now I'm going to go ahead. Would you hand me the spinach? It calls for an 8-ounce can of spinach. And like I said, I don't like cans. So I have 8 ounces of raw spinach in here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add this to my soup. So, and the reason I'm adding, that looks like an awful lot of spinach. If anybody's ever cooked with spinach, you know that it cooks down to nothing. So we're going to add the whole thing in there. This soup will be kind of thick. I mean, it's not going to have a lot of broth. So if you like soup with more broth, you can either add some chicken broth to it, or you could add some water to it, and maybe another little cube of the chicken base, whatever you want to. But this, like I said, this is kind of a thick soup when it's all done. We got that going. There we go. This book that we've got, that we're using, it has some interesting questions in there. So I'm going to, or interesting statements. I like the way she put this book together. It's a story. She tells a story, then she gives a recipe, and then she asks these questions. So these are things for thought. So this first one, it says, what's on your plate? How is life changing for you right now? Can you view it as a beginning in any way? And number 2 is identify the God things in your current circumstances. I encourage you to write these down, and then it'll offer you encouragement along the way. But it doesn't matter what our circumstances is. God's always there, and we can always see. Whoa. That was a quick break. All right. And then number 3, what truths can you rest in? Well, I think one of the truths is that God is always there, even if we can't feel him. And I know there are times we can't feel him. We don't think he's there, but he always is. Look around and you can claim the things that offer you hope, stability, strength, and nourishment. An extraordinary life does not mean problem-free or sorrow-free living. It is a life that leads us closer to God's heart and is shaped by trials and victories alike. How is your life extraordinary right now? Usually we don't choose our struggles, but we do have choices while in the midst of them. Choices that can feed the good work God is doing in us. What are some choices you can make that supports his good work? So those are things for all of us to think about. And I know in my situation, yes, it's hard, but yes, I can see God's hand in it every day. He has put so many people in my lives, How many lives am I going to have? I don't know. But anyway, it's all worked out good. Now we're waiting for the Jell-O to set up a little bit. Then we're going to add the rest of the stuff in there. How about we take a look at what that bread pudding looks like? Let me get. Look at that bread pudding. Doesn't that look good? All right. We're going to set that right there. And then our Jell-O still has 12 minutes before we can finish that up. And we do have, let me see if I can find a bowl, a glass bowl over here. All right, we're going to take a little bit out of the soup over here. I got one bay leaf. I don't know where the other one is. There's our soup. Can you see it? It's pretty thick. Can you see the spinach? I can't either. That's because this was my first batch. It's already cooked. The spinach one is almost done too. So we've got 2 different kinds of soup today. One with spinach, one without, for my friends that don't like the spinach. Okay. Let's take a look at the Jell-O. Now, this is the first one. See, doesn't that look good? Now, when the other one gets to the point where it's set the 20 minutes, we're going to add some grapes that we've halved. There's 1.5 cups of the red seedless grapes that I've already cut in half. And then a 1/4 cup of chopped pecans, which will be put in after that has set as long as it's supposed to. But we've got this one that's already done. So there's our meal. There's your Jell-O. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. There's our Jell-O. There's our soup. And there's our bread pudding. I don't think you can. I don't think you can see them all at once. There, maybe. Nope. Yeah. Can you see the soup? Okay. Anyway, there's our dinner for the day. And I would like you to send comments if you have comments about what we did today, suggestions. I'd love to hear them. When I make a recipe, I make it the way it's written. Then I start changing things. Now I want to show you our other soup we've got cooking. I keep going the wrong way. See, now that's the one with the spinach in it. This is the one I'll be eating because I love spinach. But if we let that spinach cook too long, it really gets really done. So that about wraps it up for the day.